I died when lightning struck the vending machine I was kicking for stealing my last coin. In my second life, my weakest spark lifted a training dummy's hair, and the academy lightning rod answered with a heartbeat. The heartbeat rolled through the stone under my boots, once, heavy, slow, too large to belong to anything human. I looked toward the white tower in the centre of Stormhold Academy. Its copper lightning rod reached into a clear blue sky. Nothing moved there. Then the laughter began. More than 300 students filled the testing court. They sat on stone benches arranged around 12 copper training circles. Every face had turned toward me. Some students pointed at the dummy. Its wool hair stood straight up. It looked like a frightened broom. Torin laughed loudest. 3 units, he said. Elias has discovered the legendary power of bad weather for hair. The score crystal above my circle showed 3 pale sparks. A normal first-year lightning spell needed 20 units to receive a D grade. Torin had produced 34. Fiona, the strongest lightning student in our year, had produced 112. Instructor Draven did not laugh. That would have been kinder. He stood beside the score crystal in his black examiner's coat and looked at me as if I had left mud on his floor. 3 units, he announced. Elemental rarity does not excuse elemental weakness. Elias receives an F rank. A clerk raised her pen. I looked down at the dummy. A thick copper cable ran from its spine into the ground. The other dummies had thin safety wires. Mine had a grounding chain meant for testing military siege spells. The rules allow 3 attempts, I said. Draven placed his boot over the chain. The equipment has already measured you. It measured the ground very well. A few students stopped laughing. Torin leaned over the railing. His academy coat was new. His boots were polished, and the silver crest on his collar marked him as the leader of our training group. He needed that position. His family owned one small storm crystal mine, and the academy contract kept the mine open. If he lost first place among the ordinary students, he lost the contract. That gave him a reason to fear competition. It did not give him better jokes. Ask for 10 attempts, Torin called. Perhaps the dummy will feel sorry for you. Draven raised one hand, and the clerk wrote F beside my name. The great ranking board on the wall flashed. My position fell from 309th to 512th. Last place. The board also removed the sword symbol beside my name. Without a combat rank, my scholarship would end in 7 days. I would be transferred to underground maintenance, where students sometimes returned with fewer eyebrows than they had taken to work. Draven knew that. He had signed the transfer before I cast my spell. A young testing assistant hurried forward to replace the dummy. He could not have been older than 14. When he pulled the copper chain, the damaged score crystal above us gave a sharp crack. White light jumped towards his face. I moved before anyone shouted. I caught the boy by his coat and threw him outside the circle. The loose bolt struck my shoulder instead. My muscles locked. I hit the ground hard enough to bite my tongue. Draven kicked the safety lever down. The current vanished into the floor. Clumsy, he said. He meant me. The boy tried to explain, but Draven sent him away. Most students had returned to laughing. They saw me fall. They did not care why. Only Fiona kept watching. She stood near the front bench in a blue academy coat. Pale threads of electricity moved through her black braid like tiny stars. People called her the Academy's strongest girl because she had defeated 3 second-year students during her first month. She could have laughed with everyone else. Instead, she looked at the thick grounding chain under Draven's boot. "Instructor," she said, "that is a siege chain." Draven's face did not change. "Return to your seat, Fiona." "The standard chain is 1 finger thick. That one is 4. "Are you questioning an official examination?" Fiona looked at me, then at the assistant I had pushed to safety. "I am counting." Draven's jaw tightened. The Imperial Storm Council had offered Fiona a capital contract, so he could not silence her as easily as me. He stepped away from the chain. "Elias may submit a written complaint. Until it is reviewed, the recorded result stands." The clerk pressed her seal to my record. Torrin walked down from the benches as the next group entered the testing court. He stopped close enough for only the first 2 rows to hear. "The combat group has 1 empty place now," he said. "My family thanks you." That was his real reason. I stood and brushed dust from my coat. "Keep it warm?" He smiled. "For whom?" "For me." The first 2 rows heard that. Their laughter followed me out of the court, through the Eastern Hall, and all the way to the ranking board. By noon, someone had drawn a broom with hair beside my name. I had 8 copper coins, 1 burned shoulder, and 7 days before I lost my education. Cedric's smithy stood at the end of a narrow street below the Academy Hill. The sign was crooked. The chimney smoked even when the forge was cold. Cedric claimed the chimney had a strong personality. I thought it had a broken cover. When I entered, he looked at my burned coat. "Exam?" "Exam." "Pass?" The dummy survived. He nodded as if that answered everything. On the work table sat 2 bowls of noodle soup. The broth was dark with roasted beef bones. Thin meat, green onions, fried garlic, and red oil covered the noodles. Cedric pushed the bigger bowl toward me. "Bad days need more beef." I sat. The first mouthful was hot, salty, and rich. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then the Academy bell rang at sunset. The sound passed over the city in 7 slow waves. On the 7th, something cold touched the back of my mind. A calm voice spoke inside my head. It said my elemental examination was complete. 3 advanced class paths were available. I put down my spoon. Cedric looked at me. "Bone?" "System." "Worse." Most people received 1 class choice after their examination. Rare elements sometimes received 2. I received 3. Lightning Lord would multiply my spell by 10. 10 times 3 was 30, while Torrin had produced 34 without a legendary title. Storm Swordsman could channel 20 units through a blade. I could produce 3. It would give me a very expensive ordinary sword. The third was Living Accumulator. The voice described it as an inactive support class. It granted no spell, no weapon art, and no immediate increase in rank. Official classification was F. Then the voice said one more sentence. All charge created by deliberate movement, physical impact, or external electricity would remain inside my body until I chose to spend it. I forgot the soup. Lightning mages had one basic limit. Their bodies could guide electricity, but they could not store it. A spell had to be released as soon as mana became charge. If it remained inside flesh for more than a breath, it burned nerves and stopped the heart. The third class broke that rule. It did not make my spark stronger. It allowed me to keep every weak spark. The world had given me 3 drops of water and called me useless. Living Accumulator gave me a bucket. I chose it. My class settled into my body with no flash, no pain, and no glorious thunder. My left foot tingled. The voice said I had gained 1 unit of stored charge. I looked at my foot. I took another step, 2 units. I walked around the table, 10 units. Cedric watched me circle the soup. Did the system tell you where the door is? Each step gives me 1 unit. That explains nothing. I punched my open palm. The voice reported 5 more units. I punched it again. Another 5. I sat very still for 1 full minute. The charge did not fade. It remained at 21 units. My old 3-unit spark had vanished in less than a second. 21 units now waited under my skin like warm rain. I touched an iron nail on the table and ordered 10 units to leave through my finger. A blue spark snapped. The nail jumped across the table and stuck in the wooden wall. Cedric slowly put down his spoon. That nail owed me money. I walked around the smithy, lifted a hammer and struck a leather bag. The system counted each step and impact. At 500, my hair began to rise. Cedric stared at it. You look like the dummy. The resemblance is temporary. At 800 units, my fingers trembled. The system warned that I had entered the unstable range. At 950, stored charge could damage my nerves. My maximum capacity was 1,000. That was the price. Every step filled a bucket with no leak. If I forgot to empty it, walking home could kill me. I stopped at 620 units. I could feel the charge in my arms, chest, and legs. It was not painful yet. It felt like I had swallowed a storm and the storm was waiting for directions. Cedric brought out a thick copper bar and set it on the stone floor. Try the ground first, he said. I just repaired the roof. I released 100 units through the bar. The spark was brighter than my exam spell. It blackened the stone, but the remaining 520 units stayed inside me. The system had not exaggerated. I laughed. It surprised both of us. Cedric folded his arms. Can you do it again? 5 times. Can you sell it? That was why Cedric had kept a smithy open for 20 years. I looked toward the academy hill. The ranking board was visible above the outer wall. My name sat at the bottom with a broom beside it. First, I can test it. Class registration closed at the final evening bell. Cedric gave me a copper wrist guard to release excess charge, and I hurried back to the academy. The walk added 806 units. I had to empty charge into street lamp posts before reaching my limit. A fruit seller applauded. A city guard asked me to stop helping. Living Accumulator was real, and walking had become dangerous. The registration hall was almost empty, but the Western training squad had gathered around the public class stone. Torin stood at the centre. His new class, Thunder Spear, glowed in silver letters above his name. Draven stood beside him. Fiona waited near the back wall with her arms folded. When I entered, Torin smiled. The maintenance division registers downstairs. I came to record my class. The clerk placed my palm on the class stone. The stone read my choice. Living accumulator. Support class. No active skills. Official rank, F. For half a breath the hall was silent. Then Torin bent forward laughing. You received 3 choices and selected a storage barrel. Someone asked whether I came with a lid. The jokes were simple. That made them travel fast. Draven looked satisfied. The class confirms the examination. Remove his combat registration. The clerk reached for my record. Wait, Fiona said. She walked to the class stone and looked at me. An accumulator must contain something. Torin straightened. It contains 3 units. Fiona ignored him. The scoring pillar is still active, she said. 1 strike would settle the output question. Draven's eyes narrowed. This is not a scheduled test. Then it cannot damage your official result. If Draven refused, he admitted he feared a 3-unit spark. If he agreed, he expected another public failure. Torin pulled 3 silver coins from his pocket and dropped them on the registration desk. Let him try. If he scores more than 10, he can keep these. 3 silver coins bought meat for a week. And if I score more than you? I asked. His smile became stiff. You will not. That was not an answer. Torin glanced at Draven. Then he removed the silver group leader pin from his collar and placed it beside the coins. If you beat my score, you can wear this until the official ranking trial. We moved into the indoor testing court. 43 students and 2 clerks followed. Fiona checked the pillar's grounding wire herself. Torin went first. He raised one hand and released a yellow bolt. It struck the pillar with a hard crack. The score crystal flashed 41. The Western squad cheered. Torin had improved by 7 units since noon. He looked at me and spread his hands. 10 would still be a miracle. I had gathered 912 units during the walk, the lamps, and the movement inside the hall. I had released enough to remain below the danger line. 704 units waited inside me. I decided to spend 600. The owner watched my hands. Draven watched my face. Torin watched the score crystal. I placed 2 fingers against the pillar. I released the charge. Blue-white light swallowed my arm. The sound struck like a hammer on steel. Every lamp went dark, then returned twice as bright. The score crystal climbed past 10, then 20, then 41. It stopped at 67. Nobody spoke. A thin crack appeared in the stone base under the pillar. The class stone reacted at once. Any student who produced more than 50 units qualified for a provisional E combat rank. My name rose from 512th place to 287th. The broom drawing vanished. The sword symbol returned. 43 students watched it happen. Both clerks repeated the words, living accumulator. By morning, the entire academy would know. Torin stared at the score as if the pillar had insulted his ancestors. That is impossible. No, Fiona said. It is 67. Several students laughed. They were not laughing at me. Torin looked at Draven. He used an artifact. Draven examined my bare hands and Cedric's plain copper guard. The clerks recorded that I carried no artifact. Fiona picked up the 3 silver coins and the silver group leader pin. She placed them in my hand. The result had witnesses, she said. Her fingers were warm. A tiny spark passed between us. The system voice quietly informed me that I had gained 1 unit. I looked at Fiona. She felt the spark too. Her eyes widened by the smallest amount. Torin saw the look and misunderstood it. "The official trial is tomorrow," he said. "A scoring pillar does not fight back." "Good," I said. "You may score better against something with hair." The laughter struck him harder than my spell could have. Draven ordered everyone out. He could not erase 2 Clark seals, 43 witnesses, and a public ranking change. I now had 7 days and a provisional rank. At home, Cedric used 1 silver coin to buy beef, mushrooms, and white pepper. He fried the mushrooms in butter, poured thick broth over fresh noodles, and covered them with beef. We ate beside the forge. I placed the silver pin on the table. "Temporary," I said. Cedric drank his broth. Metal does not know that. My shoulder still hurt, and Draven still controlled the official trial. But I had gone from 8 copper coins to 3 silver. My output had risen from 3 units to 67. My rank had climbed 225 places. The world had laughed at the worst class. The world did not know how much walking I planned to do. I went to bed with a copper wire tied around my wrist and the other end fixed to a grounding plate. Cedric checked it twice. Near midnight, thunder rolled over the city. There were no clouds. The academy lightning rod flashed once. The light passed through my window and turned the room white. The giant heartbeat returned. Then a woman's voice spoke from somewhere beneath the thunder. "Thief," it said. The copper wire around my wrist melted. I woke before sunrise with 680 units in my body and a line of black copper across the floor. The first thing I checked was my heart. It was beating. The second thing I checked was the window. The academy lightning rod stood against the grey morning sky. No dragon circled it. No giant woman made of thunder waited on the roof. That counted as good news. Cedric held up the melted wire. "Your class ate this." "Something in the tower called me a thief." "Then your class ate evidence." We replaced the wire with a thicker one. I emptied 500 units into the forge battery while Cedric watched the meter. The blue crystal inside the battery went from dull grey to bright blue. The smithy lamps came alive. The system voice announced that I had safely processed more than 1,000 units since choosing my class. My capacity increased by 100. I could now hold 1,100 units. That was my first permanent gain. Yesterday, 3 units had made a dummy's hair rise. Today, I could carry enough electricity to run Cedric's forge for 6 hours. He looked at the glowing battery. "The city pays for that." "How much?" 20 silver for 500 units. I looked at my feet. Cedric looked at my feet. We both looked toward the long road around the market. Breakfast became shorter. I reached the academy after emptying charge into 5 public lamps and 1 bakery sign. The baker offered me a sweet roll. A guard offered me another warning. The ranking hall was full. My name stood at 287th place. Under it, someone had written a new title in chalk. The Walking Battery. The broom had been moved beside Torin's name. 43 witnesses had become 200 rumours before sunrise. Students followed me with their eyes. Some counted my steps. One first-year walked beside me for an entire corridor, then asked whether I was full. "Almost," I said. He ran away. Fiona waited under the ranking board. She held 2 cups of citrus tea. "You made half the Eastern District flicker last night." The lamps were underfed. She handed me 1 cup. "Draven filed an objection to your provisional rank." That was fast. "He filed it before the pillar stopped smoking." She showed me a notice stamped with his seal. I would keep my provisional E rank only if I won an official combat trial before sunset. Draven had selected Torin as my opponent. The notice allowed Torin his registered weapon, his Thunder Spear class, and his academy armor. It allowed me my active class skills. Living Accumulator had none. "He wrote that line 3 times, the owner said. "Perhaps his pen was frightened." Her mouth moved as if she was trying not to smile. I drank the tea. It was hot and sharp, with enough honey to cover the bitter peel. "How strong is Torin's best attack?" 300 units yesterday. His new class may raise it to 400. My current charge was 912. I could release it through my hands, but a human opponent was not a scoring pillar. If I struck Torin with 600 units, the duel would end quickly, and his future would become very quiet. I needed control. "Who teaches lightning swords?" The owner pointed toward the northern practice hall. "Sable. She also hates Draven." "Professionally?" "With discipline." Sable was waiting when we entered the northern hall. She was a lean woman with short silver hair and a plain wooden sword. No jewelry, no noble crest, no smile. The academy called her Swordmaster Sable. Students called her Master when she could hear them, and several other things when she could not. She looked at my copper wrist guard. "Show me 67. I released 67 units into the steel target. The target rang. Sable walked around it, checked the mark, and tapped my elbow with her wooden sword. "You threw everything from the shoulder. Do that with a blade, and the blade will throw you." "Can you teach me before sunset?" "No." "Can you stop me from killing Torin?" She considered that. "Possibly." For the next hour, she made me walk in straight lines. I had expected sword practice. I received lessons on feet. Every step created 1 unit. Sable made me feel where the charge gathered. It was not evenly spread. My legs held more after walking. My arms held more after swinging. Until then, I had treated my body as one large container. Sable told me to move 50 units into my right leg before stepping. I obeyed. The hall vanished. The wall arrived. I struck it shoulder first and fell into a rack of wooden swords. The rack collapsed over me with the dignity of a refrigerator falling downstairs. Fiona covered her mouth. Sable did not. "You moved twice as fast," she said. "Your thoughts did not." My shoulder had started to dislike this world. On the second attempt, I used 20 units. On the third, 10. I learned to strengthen the muscle without releasing the charge as lightning. The energy vanished from storage and became movement. That was the second use of my class. 100 units doubled the force of a full sword swing. 200 made the wooden blade crack. 300 sent the broken half spinning into the ceiling. Sable looked at the wood above us. "You owe the academy 1 sword. Can I pay after the duel?" "You owe the academy 2 swords. She handed me another. By noon, I could spend 50 units across both legs for 1 fast step, and 200 through my arms for one controlled strike. My body paid the difference. My calves shook. The skin on my palms felt hot. Stored charge did not remove the need for tendons. Sable wrapped my hands in cloth. "Power is easy," she said. "Stopping is expensive." That was the first kind thing she said to me. It sounded like a threat. Fiona and I ate lunch on the northern stairs. She had brought warm honey buns filled with crushed nuts. Steam escaped when I tore mine open. The outside was soft. The bottom was crisp with sugar, and the honey stuck to my fingers. Fiona watched students crossing the yard below. "Torin was not always like this," she said. "His father's mine failed last winter. The academy promised a new contract if Torin led the Western group." "Draven promised it?" "Yes." That explained the silver pin. If I take his place, his workers suffer. If Draven can decide which family eats, he owns Torin. I looked at the ranking hall. Draven had not only cheated me, he had built a leash around another student and called it a prize.
"Then I need the group place and Draven's leash."
Fiona turned toward me. "Most people would only take the place." "Most people do not need this much walking." She laughed. It was a clear sound. Several students below looked up in surprise. The strongest lightning girl at Stormhold rarely laughed in public. That created 3 new rumours before lunch ended. After practice, I went to the municipal charge house. The building contained rows of empty blue crystals used for street lamps and heating rooms. A clerk with thick gloves inspected my provisional rank and placed 1 crystal on a grounded table. 500 units, he said. 20 silver. If you explode, the city keeps the deposit." "What deposit?" "Your boots." I charged the first crystal in 10 seconds. The clerk checked his meter twice. I walked the circular service corridor until my body held another 500 units. Then I filled the second crystal. Workers stopped carrying boxes to watch. At the 4th crystal, someone brought a chair. At the 6th, the clerk sent for his supervisor. At the 8th, a line of off-duty guards had formed near the door. They began betting on how many circles I could walk before my hair rose. I filled 10 crystals. 5,000 units moved through my body in safe cycles. My capacity increased by 500, reaching 1,600. The charge house paid me 200 silver. 2 gold coins. The clerk placed them in my palm as if he expected me to disappear. Yesterday, I had owned 8 copper. Today, 1 afternoon of walking paid nearly half a month of academy tuition. The workers applauded when the 10th crystal lit. By the time I left, a notice on the charge house door offered me permanent work. The walking battery had become an occupation. I spent 1 gold and 20 silver on a storm iron practice sword. Storm iron guided lightning without melting. I spent 30 silver on muscle balm. I kept 50 silver. My strength had grown. My money had grown. And when I returned to Stormhold, students at the gate asked me to touch the dead lamp beside the guardhouse. I charged it for free. The official trial occupied the western courtyard. Draven had expected a small examination. Rumours had given him an audience of more than 200 students. The ranking board had been turned toward the arena. 2 clerks stood beside it. Sable watched from the instructor's platform. Cedric stood near the gate in his cleanest work shirt. Fiona waited beside the safety barrier with her braid tied back. Torin entered in silver academy armour. His family crest shone on his chest. The thunder spear in his hand held a yellow crystal worth at least 15 gold. His face looked calm until he saw the crowd. Then he saw the silver group leader pin on my collar. "Enjoy wearing it," he said. "You will return it in 1 minute." "Your family needs the contract," I said quietly. His eyes changed. "Do not speak about them." "Draven made your family depend on your rank." "He gave us a chance." "He gave himself a handle." Torin's grip tightened. Draven raised his voice before we could say more. "The trial ends when one fighter surrenders, loses consciousness, or leaves the marked circle. Elias may use only registered class abilities. Since Living Accumulator has no active skills, any unexplained technique will count as artifact fraud." The crowd muttered. Sable stood. "Physical reinforcement is a standard use of stored elemental energy." Draven looked up at her. "Is that your official judgment?" "It is now." One clerk added it to the record. Draven's mouth became a narrow line. The bell rang. Torin attacked immediately. His spear released 3 yellow arcs. I spent 20 units in each leg and moved between them. The first bolt burned the stone behind me. The second struck the barrier. The third passed close enough to heat my cheek. The audience shouted with every flash. Torin turned faster than I expected. His spear was not decoration. He had trained with it for years. He swept the metal shaft at my knees, then reversed the point toward my shoulder. I blocked with my new sword. Metal rang. The impact added 9 units to my storage. That was small, but it confirmed another part of my class. Received physical force became charge too. Torin drove me backward. "A battery does not win a fight," he said. "It depends what is inside." I spent 50 units in my legs. For one step, the courtyard slowed. I passed his spear point, struck his armoured chest with my shoulder, and spent 100 units through the impact. Torin flew backward. He did not leave the circle. The heel of his boot stopped 1 finger from the boundary. The crowd roared. The ranking board showed the strike at 118 units. Torin looked from the board to me. His confidence cracked. Draven shouted for him to continue. Torin pulled every remaining spark into his spear. The yellow crystal screamed. Viona stepped closer to the barrier. 400 units, she said. Torin aimed at my chest. I had 1,209 units stored. My limit was 1,600. I could not take another 400 without entering the danger range. I raised my storm iron sword to redirect the spell into the ground. The thunder spear fired. Yellow light struck my blade. The sword did not send it into the ground. It pulled the spell into me. The system voice announced that I had received 392 units of external electricity. My storage climbed to 1,601, 1 unit above my limit. Pain crossed my chest, every muscle locked. Blue sparks burst from my teeth. The smell of burned cloth filled my nose. The audience went silent. Draven leaned forward. He thought I was dying. He was almost correct. I could not hold the charge, but I did not need to hold it. I spent 50 units in my right leg. Time became thick. I spent 200 in my arms. My sword moved. I spent the remaining excess through the storm iron. 1 blue line crossed the courtyard. Torin's lightning vanished. His spear crystal split in half. The silver family crest fell from his armour. His belt followed it. His armor dropped around his boots with a sound like a metal cupboard losing an argument. Torin stood in his training trousers, still holding a spear with no point. For one breath, nobody moved. Then 200 students exploded with laughter and shouting. The scoring barrier displayed 612 units. Torin looked at his fallen armor. He looked at the boundary line. My strike had pushed every piece of metal he wore outside the circle while leaving him inside. He dropped the broken spear. I surrender. The ranking board flashed. My provisional E became official. My position rose to 146. The silver group leader pin became mine until the next monthly trial. The Western squad stared at me. Then one student began clapping. Another joined. Within seconds, the entire courtyard followed. Even Torin's own group applauded. Draven did not. He descended from the platform with an official red form in his hand. External spell absorption is not registered under Living Accumulator, he said. It is now, Sable replied. The clerks wrote faster. Draven pressed the red form against my chest. Unclassified conductors require a stability certification. Tomorrow, Elias will enter the Storm Vault. The applause died. Everyone at Stormhold knew the Storm Vault. It tested how much lightning a body could survive. Advanced students entered it after months of preparation. First-year students did not enter. Torin picked up his fallen crest. My cousin entered that vault, he said. He could not feel his hands for a year. Draven smiled without humour. Then Elias should avoid touching anything valuable. That night, Cedric cooked rice with crisp chicken skin, ginger, and dark sauce. The meat was tender under the golden crust. Fiona brought the remaining honey buns. Sable sent a jar of muscle balm and a bill for 2 wooden swords. I placed my 2 gold coins on the table, then subtracted 1 gold and 50 silver for the sword and medicine. I had 50 silver, an official E rank, a capacity of 1,600, and a new ability to absorb lightning. Cedric read the red form. The Storm Vault killed 3 people when I was young. The form says it is safe. The form is clean. That is more suspicious. Fiona spread a copied vault plan beside the food. 12 maintenance students would enter with me. Draven had assigned them that afternoon. Their names were all near the bottom of the ranking board. He was not testing only me. He was putting 12 weak students around an untested accumulator and filling the room with lightning. At the bottom of the form, beneath Draven's seal, I found a second mark pressed into the paper. It belonged to the Imperial Storm Council. Outside, the Academy lightning rod flashed. The red seal on the form began to smoke. The Storm Vault door opened by itself when I touched it. Every dead crystal inside lit in time with my heartbeat. The 12 maintenance students behind me stopped walking. One of them whispered, "Is it supposed to do that?" If it were, I said, the instructor would look less surprised. Draven stood on the observation platform above the vault entrance. For the first time since I met him, his face had lost its calm. The blue crystals faded when I removed my hand. Draven recovered quickly. "Residual charge," he announced. "Enter." The Storm Vault lay beneath the tournament arena. It was a circular chamber with 12 copper stations around a central glass tower. Thick cables climbed the walls, their other ends connected to the Academy lightning rod. The room smelled of cold stone and old storms. Each maintenance student wore a grounding coat. Their ranks ranged from F to low E. 2 were fire mages, One could harden mud.
Another could make a candle flame bend toward his hand.
None belonged in a high-voltage test. They had been told this was paid maintenance work. Draven had told me it was my certification. He had lied to all of us in different directions. Sable stood beside him as the official combat observer. Fiona and Cedric waited behind the outer safety wall. More students had gathered in the corridor. A recording crystal above the door would show the test on the Academy's public ranking wall. Draven had objected to the broadcast. Fiona had found a rule requiring it. I liked rules when they bit the correct person. Before entering, I had walked and trained enough to process 2,000 units through Cedric's forge battery. My capacity had risen from 1,600 to 1,800. I carried 1,500 units. My storm iron sword hung at my side. Draven raised a speaking crystal. The first current will be 300 units. Elias will guide it into the empty storage pillars. The maintenance workers will replace the exhausted crystals after each stage. 300 units was safe. That made me more suspicious than 6,000. The vault door closed behind us. Locks struck in 4 places. I walked to the glass tower. The floor around it contained 6 emergency fuses. 5 had been removed. The 6th had been cut. I looked up at Draven. He watched me through the observation window. Instructor, the safety fuses are missing. The test has begun. White light filled the central tower. The first bolt struck my raised sword. 300 units entered my body. My storage rose to 1,800. Exactly full. I sent the same 300 into the first empty pillar. Its crystal turned blue. The system counted the safe cycle. My capacity rose by 30. The maintenance students relaxed. The crowd outside applauded. Draven activated the second stage without waiting. 600 units hit the sword. I pulled the current through my chest and into the second pillar. Pain followed the path. Living accumulator protected me from immediate burning, but it did not make my nerves enjoy the work. The second crystal filled. My capacity rose again. The ranking wall showed my total processed charge. 900 units. Then 1,200. Students in the corridor began counting aloud. At 2,000, the vault lights shook. At 3,000, the public board gave me the temporary title of Certified Conductor. At 4,000, Draven stopped pretending. He pushed both hands onto the control panel. Every cable on the wall turned white. Sable seized his wrist. That setting is for siege crystals. Draven struck the emergency shield between them. A transparent wall threw Sable backward. The test must establish his limit. Fiona ran toward the outer controls. The vault door remained locked. Inside, 12 red warning lights came alive. The maintenance students looked at me. "Leave the crystals," I said. "Stand behind the empty pillars." The glass tower released 6 separate bolts. They did not aim at me. They aimed at the students. I spent 200 units in my legs. The chamber slowed. I reached the first student and caught the bolt on my sword. 400 units entered me. I turned, crossed the room and intercepted the second, then the third. Each fast step spent charge. Each bolt filled the space again. I became a bucket held beneath 6 broken pipes. The 4th bolt struck my back before I reached it. My grounding coat burned open. The impact drove me to one knee. The system reported 1,790 units stored. My limit had reached 2040. I still had space. I caught the 5th bolt with my left hand. The 6th hit the Mud Mage's copper station. He screamed as current climbed his boots. I drove my sword into the floor between us and released 1,000 units. Blue light crossed the copper lines. The hostile current changed direction and entered my blade. The student fell clear. Outside the vault, the public corridor erupted. I could not hear the words through the sealed door, but I saw hundreds of fists strike the safety wall. The ranking display showed 6 lives protected. Draven tried to shut down the recording crystal. Fiona reached the outer panel first. She pushed her own lightning into it. Every public board in Stormhold Academy flashed from the student rankings to the vault image. The dining hall saw us. The training courts saw us. The instructor's tower saw us. More than 2,000 people watched Draven increase the current. His plan had required weak witnesses. He had received an audience. The central tower roared. This time it released 3,000 units at once. My capacity was only 2,100. I could not absorb the attack and hold it. So I did not hold it. I opened every path through my body. Charge entered through the sword. I sent 500 units into my legs and crossed the chamber. I sent another 500 through my arms and hurled 2 empty pillars into the path of the side bolts. I fed 1,000 into 3 storage crystals, then I caught the remaining current in my bare hands. For several seconds I absorbed and spent at the same time. My stored charge rose toward the limit, fell, then rose again. The system counted every safe unit. 6,000 processed, 8,000, 10,000. The number appeared across every ranking wall in the academy. Students who had laughed at my 3-unit spark now shouted each new 1,000. The maintenance workers began helping. They rolled filled crystals away and pushed empty ones toward me. The Mud Mage hardened broken floor channels. The 2 Fire Mages heated bent copper until it could be moved. They were weak alone. Together, they turned the vault into a machine. I stood at its center. Draven drove the control lever to maximum. The glass tower cracked. The lightning rod above the academy pulled power from the clear sky. Thunder struck the arena roof. A final surge of 6,000 units descended through the walls. Every hair in the chamber rose. The young maintenance student nearest me began to cry. "We cannot hold that." "We do not need to." I pointed toward the locked door. "We only need a new exit." I had safely processed 12,000 units during the test. My capacity reached 3,000. I pulled 2,800 into my body. My vision turned blue around the edges. Blood filled my mouth. I spent 300 in my legs, 500 in my back, and 2,000 through my arms. Then I swung the storm iron sword at the vault door. The blade released a line of lightning so thin that it made no sound at first. The line crossed the chamber. It cut through 4 locks. It passed through the door. It passed through the outer safety wall. It continued upward into the tournament arena. The arena's defensive shield flashed and opened like torn cloth. Only then did the thunder arrive. The vault door fell outward. Draven's control platform lost power. The siege surge vanished into the emergency ground beyond the broken wall. For 1 second, everyone outside stared at the hole. Then the 12 maintenance students walked through it behind me. The corridor exploded with sound. 2,000 students had crowded around the public boards and vault entrance. They saw the burned coat on my back. They saw the full storage crystals rolling behind us. They saw every maintenance worker alive. The ranking wall displayed the result. 12,000 units processed. 12 students rescued. 1 arena shield broken. My rank changed from E to D. My position rose from 146 to 43rd. The title Walking Battery disappeared. In its place appeared Living Thunder. The crowd shouted the new name. Draven stepped down from the dead control platform. The subject damaged Academy property and interrupted a certified test. For a moment, even the crowd seemed unsure it had heard him correctly. Sable walked through the broken safety wall. She held 5 black pieces of metal in one hand and the cut 6th fuse in the other. These were removed before the test. Draven looked at the crowd. He finally understood that the audience was not protection for him. It was a blade. Fiona entered with a leather ledger under her arm. I found this in the control office. She opened it beneath the recording crystal. The Imperial Storm Council had paid Draven 5 gold for every low-ranked Lightning student transferred into a city battery crew. Over 3 years, he had sent 64 students. The 12 people inside the vault had already been listed for transfer. So had I. Torin pushed through the crowd. He carried the broken yellow crystal from his thunder spear. He ordered me to use maximum force yesterday, Torin said. He promised my family contract only if Elias lost his rank. Draven's eyes became cold. Your mine employs 40 people. Do you want them to starve? Torin flinched. That was Draven's weapon. He did not threaten pain. He threatened everyone standing behind his target. Draven turned toward the crowd. The council requires stable power. Cities need lamps, barriers, and heat. Weak lightning mages cannot fight, but they can still serve. I gave useless students paid work. Some instructors looked away. That was why he had survived for years. His cruelty wore the clothes of practical need. I held up one of the filled crystals. The city paid me 20 silver for 500 units. Fiona looked at the ledger. The workers received 2 silver. The crowd changed. It was not a sudden roar. It was worse for Draven. It was thousands of people understanding the same theft. The headmaster arrived with 6 academy guards. He read the ledger. He examined the removed fuses. Then he ordered Draven's instructor seal removed in the central court. Draven backed away. Blue light formed around his hand. The guards raised shields. He fired at the recording crystal. I stepped between them and caught the bolt. 400 units entered my body. The crystal continued recording. I released 10 units through the stone floor. The charge climbed Draven's boots and lifted his carefully combed hair straight upward. For one perfect second, he looked exactly like the dummy from my examination. The central court saw it. The dining hall saw it. Every ranking board saw it. The laughter rolled across Stormhold Academy. Draven had called 3 units useless. 10 units ended his dignity. The guards took his seal, his coat, and his control key. The headmaster announced a public investigation into every student transfer. Torin's family contract would remain active until the investigation ended. Torin looked at me across the court. He did not apologize. He gave one stiff nod. That was enough for the day. Academy regulations awarded 30 gold to any student who prevented a certified training disaster involving more than 10 lives. Draven had written the test himself, so his signature approved my reward. The finance clerk smiled when she counted the coins. I paid 12 gold to secure my academy tuition for the entire year. I placed 5 gold into a shared fund for the injured maintenance students. Cedric received 3 gold for repairs to his forge battery and the melted floor wire. I kept 10 gold. 3 days earlier, I had owned 8 copper coins. The 12 rescued students refused to go home before eating together. We filled 3 tables at a street kitchen below the academy. The cook brought grilled chicken glazed with sweet pepper, bowls of white rice, crisp vegetables, and a soup rich with garlic and egg. The chicken skin cracked under my teeth. The meat beneath it was hot and soft. After the vault, even plain water tasted valuable. Cedric sat at one end of the table. Sable sat at the other and made every student describe one mistake from the test before allowing a second serving. The owner sat beside me. "You broke the arena shield," she said. "The door was behind it." "The arena was above it." "That explains the stairs." She shook her head and pushed the last piece of glazed chicken onto my plate. Students from nearby tables came to see me. Some asked for advice. Some only stared. One brought a chalkboard showing the newest betting odds for the academy tournament.
Yesterday, the bookmakers had listed me at 1 chance in 500. Now they listed me at 1 chance in 30. My name stood beneath Orlan, the undefeated capital champion. The owner's name stood second. The tournament began in 2 days. After dinner, Sable took the owner and me to the empty arena. Workers had placed a temporary shield over the line my attack had cut. "Your power is concentrated, but slow," Sable said. "Show me the strongest controlled swing you can make." My capacity was 3,000. I gathered 2,500 through an hour of running, striking and drawing small charges from practice crystals. Viona stood behind the new barrier. Sable watched my feet. I spent 200 in my legs, 300 in my back, and 2,000 through the blade. The sword moved once. A white line crossed the arena. The temporary shield, rated for 3,000 units, developed a round hole in its center. Viona stopped breathing. Sable looked at the hole, then at my sword. "Do not do that near a person." Thunder answered from the tower. The entire arena floor shook. High above us, the main lightning rod split down the middle. Something opened one enormous golden eye inside the storm clouds. The woman's voice returned, loud enough for Viona and Sable to hear. "Stolen heir," it said. "I have found you." The golden eye watched Stormhold through an empty day and remained above us on tournament morning, while every senior official called it an unusual cloud. The cloud blinked whenever someone said that. By breakfast, the academy had ordered students not to look up. Cedric served fried potatoes, soft eggs, and thick slices of bread at the smithy. The potatoes were crisp with salt and rosemary. The eggs covered them in warm golden yolk. Every plate jumped when thunder rolled. "Weather," Cedric said. "Very unusual weather." The giant eye looked through the window. Cedric closed the curtain. The first day of the academy tournament began that morning. More than 8,000 spectators filled the arena. Merchants covered the lower streets with blue flags, grilled meat stands and betting boards. My name appeared on every board. 3 days earlier, no one would accept a bet on me. Now the odds were 1 chance in 12. Viona remained at 1 chance in 3. The favourite stood at 1 chance in 2. Orlan. He arrived from the capital in a silver carriage pulled by 2 storm beasts. He was 19, undefeated in 40 official matches, and heir to a family that controlled 3 seats on the Imperial Storm Council. He stepped onto the tournament platform in white armour. A black lightning mark crossed his chest. The crowd cheered because he was famous, and because 20 council guards watched them. Orlan smiled at the academy officials. He did not look at the eye above us. "A harmless, atmospheric spirit," he announced. "The council has the situation under control." The eye narrowed. The western half of the arena moved 3 fingers to the left. Orlan continued speaking. That required courage or practice. The owner stood beside me beneath the competitor's platform. Her blue coat had been replaced by light tournament armour. Sparks moved through the plates whenever she breathed. "He knows what it is," she said. "He knows it can hear him." That makes the speech worse. Orlan finished greeting the crowd and walked directly toward us. His gaze passed over me and settled on Viona. "Your capital contract is ready," he said. "After the tournament, you will travel with my group." I did not sign it. "Your academy accepted the council sponsorship." "The academy is not my hand." Orlan's smile remained in place, but the warmth left it. "The capital offers training Stormhold cannot provide." "Then send Stormhold the books." Students close enough to hear suddenly became very interested in their boots. By the time Orlan turned toward me, at least 50 people were listening. "You are the accumulator." "I have other qualities." "Your class is not recorded in the Imperial Combat Registry." "It was recorded on the academy wall." "A school wall is not the Empire." He spoke calmly. He did not need to shout. Every instructor near him understood that 1 letter from his family could close a department. "Unregistered lightning bloodlines are dangerous," he continued. "Withdraw from the tournament and submit to council examination. If you cooperate, your guardian will receive 10 gold. 10 gold was more than Cedric earned in 2 months, and was also less than I had earned yesterday. "Make it 11, I said. His eyebrows rose. "Would that persuade you?" "No, it would make the insult less round." Someone behind Viona choked on a laugh. Orlan studied me for a moment. "Then the tournament will measure you." He walked away. The public bracket changed 1 minute later. I had originally received a rest period between each match. The new bracket placed all 6 of my qualifying fights in one afternoon. Orlan's name appeared beside the approval seal. 8,000 spectators saw it. The first boos came from the maintenance section. The 12 students from the vault stood together there. Each wore a blue strip of cloth around one arm. When the bracket changed, they raised 12 signs showing the number of fuses Draven had removed. The rest of the arena understood. The boos became louder. Orlan sat in the council balcony and did not react. Sable pulled me into the practice chamber beneath the arena. 6 matches mean you cannot fill yourself between rounds, she said. Every match involves movement. Every broken leg involves movement too. She placed 10 small wooden balls on a shelf. One by one, she knocked them off. My task was to catch each ball before it reached the ground. I used 50 units in my legs for the first. I reached it easily and slammed into the opposite wall. Sable tapped my forehead.
Your muscles move when charged. Your mind still sends orders at ordinary speed. She taught me to release tiny impulses along my nerves. 5 units sharpened my sight for 1 breath. 10 made the world feel slow. More than 20 caused a headache and a taste like copper. It was not a new source of power. It was a thinner way to spend what I had. On the next attempt, I used 10 units in my nerves and 20 in my legs. I caught the ball. I stopped before the wall. Sable dropped the remaining 8 at once. I caught 7. The 8th struck my head. "Better," she said. My capacity had reached 5,000 after 2 days of work at the charge house and practice with Sable. I entered the tournament carrying 4,200 units. The first opponent was a stone-armoured student twice my width. He laughed when he saw my sword. "Lightning cannot pass through stone." "Neither can doors. I have solved one." 3,000 people in the eastern seats heard me. The sentence travelled across the arena in waves. The bell rang. He covered his body in rock and charged. I did not release lightning. I stepped aside and caught his wrist. His physical impact added 40 units to my storage. I spent 100 through my back and turned. He continued running. The boundary stopped him. The match lasted 4 seconds. The crowd laughed as he stared at the white line beneath his stone feet. My first victory paid 10 gold. The public board moved me into the upper half of the bracket. The second opponent used wind. She filled the arena with dust and attacked from behind it. I spent 5 units through my eyes and nerves. Every moving grain became visible. I saw the empty line inside the dust where her body moved. 1 flat strike of my sword broke her shield. She surrendered before the blade touched her. The match lasted 11 seconds. The betting odds changed from 1 in 12 to 1 in 8. The third opponent carried a chain covered in grounding runes. Orlan's balcony had supplied it before the match. The chain wrapped around my sword and pulled 300 units from the blade into the arena floor. The council section cheered. The student smiled. Nothing to store now. He had mistaken my weapon for my body. I let go of the sword. Then I spent 200 units in my arms and pulled him across the arena by his own chain. He crossed the boundary in the air. My sword remained on the floor. I picked it up after the judge announced my victory. The council section became quiet. The maintenance section counted 3 wins allowed. Between matches, the owner found me behind the western gate. She had already won her first 3 fights. None lasted longer than half a minute. She carried a paper bag filled with roasted meat buns. The bread was browned with butter. Inside, chopped beef, onions, and pepper released hot juice with every bite. "Sable said you forget food when counting," she said. "Food is a resource. Then stop wasting it." We sat on the stone steps while the crowd roared above us. Viona looked at the burn marks crossing my hands. "I saw what you did during the examination." "Scored 3. You pushed the assistant out of the broken circle." I ate another bite. He was standing in the wrong place. "You had already lost your rank. Nobody was watching you." "You were." She held my gaze. "Yes." The noise of the arena seemed farther away. Then a messenger arrived with our next match notices. He saw us sitting close together, nearly dropped both papers, and ran away at a speed Sable would have respected. By the time we returned to the competitors' platform, a new rumour had passed through the lower seats. Viona ignored it.
I tried to do the same. My ears felt warmer than the lightning burns. The fourth match was against Torin. The arena reacted when our names appeared together. More than 8,000 people had heard the story of our courtyard duel. Half expected revenge. The other half expected his armour to fall off again.
Torin entered with repaired armour and a plain academy spear. "I added 2 belts," he said. "That is sound strategy," he almost smiled. When the bell rang, he fought differently. No desperate maximum spell, no glance toward the instructors. His spear moved in clean lines. Small lightning bursts forced me to change direction. He had studied my fast step. He struck the ground whenever I prepared to move, making the stone slick with glass. He kept distance and forced me to spend charge. The audience stopped laughing. Torin had earned his group rank before Draven turned it into a leash. For 3 minutes, he showed everyone why. Then I used 10 units in my nerves. I saw his shoulder tighten before the spear moved. I stepped inside the attack, touched the flat of my sword to his chest, and stopped. Torin looked down at the blade. He lowered his spear. "I surrender." The crowd stood for both of us. When we left the arena, Torin removed his family crest and held it out. "Draven's contract is under investigation. I do not need his pin." "Your squad still needs a leader." "Then lead it." "I am busy walking." He pushed the crest back onto his armour. That was not friendship. It was no longer hatred. My 5th opponent belonged to the capital team. His silver armour carried a council grounding field. When I approached, stored charge leaked from my skin into the floor. The arena meter showed my power falling. 4,000 units became 3,000, then 2,000. Orlan watched from the balcony. The capital student raised a heavy hammer. "Your class is finished." I noticed that every step still created 1 unit. The grounding field removed electricity, but it could not remove movement before it happened. I waited until the hammer fell. The impact added 100 units. I spent them immediately through my legs. I moved before the field could drain them. His second strike gave me another 100. I moved again. The stronger he attacked, the faster I became. After 7 blows, his breath grew rough. After 10, the crowd understood. They began shouting for him to hit harder. He did. The hammer struck the floor with both hands. 240 units entered my body. I spent all of them in the same instant. My shoulder hit his chest. His grounding armour crossed the boundary without him. Every buckle had broken. He stood in a padded undercoat, staring at the empty space where his protection had been. The maintenance section began chanting Living Thunder. The chant spread until the council balcony vibrated beneath it. My 5th victory brought another 10 gold and a place in the final qualifying match. It also raised my odds to 1 chance in 4. Only Orlan remained above Viona and me. The 6th opponent was the captain of Orlan's capital team. He carried no grounding armour. He carried a cage. 4 silver pillars rose around the arena when he entered. A dome of runes closed over us. The judge announced that the device was a legal battlefield artifact. Sable stood in the instructors section. Legal artifacts are submitted 1 day before competition. Orlan raised a sealed approval. The council granted an exception. 8,000 spectators answered with 1 united boo. The captain activated the cage. Lightning fell from all 4 pillars. The attack contained 4,000 units. It was not meant to drain me. It was meant to fill me beyond my limit.
I entered the match with 3,200 stored. My capacity had grown during 5 fights and repeated cycles. It had reached 7,000. The cage would bring me to 7,200. Orlan had counted well. He had not counted the sword. The lightning struck. I absorbed all 4 streams. Pain filled my body, my muscles seized. The system warned that I had exceeded my limit. The capital captain walked toward me with his sword raised. Surrender. I spent 10 units through my nerves. The world slowed. I saw each spark move across his blade. I spent 200 in my legs. To the audience, I vanished. I passed the captain. I cut the first silver pillar, then the second, then the third. Each movement created charge. Each cut released it. I remained 1 breath ahead of overload. The captain turned toward 3 different flashes and found none of them. I reached the 4th pillar. The cage collapsed. The remaining lightning had nowhere to go. I pulled it into my storm iron sword. 6,800 units gathered along the blade. The temporary arena shield stood between me and the spectators. Beyond it, the broken lightning rod pulsed like a heart. I raised the sword toward the empty sky. Then I released everything. The strike crossed the arena faster than sound. It opened the temporary shield. It climbed the academy tower. It struck the cracked lightning rod. The rod shattered. The cloud above Stormhold split from end to end. 2 golden wings unfolded across the sky. A dragon, larger than the arena, rose from inside the storm.
Her scales were black at the edges and white at the centre, like clouds holding sunlight. Lightning ran between her horns, her golden eye fixed on me. 8,000 people forgot to breathe. Orlan stood for the first time. The dragon descended. She landed on the arena wall. Stone sank beneath her claws. Then thunder covered her body and she stepped through it in the form of a young woman with golden eyes and long white hair. The judge dropped his bell. She picked it up and rang it once. "The accumulator wins," she announced. The arena erupted. My 6th victory placed me among the final 8. The tournament awarded me 80 gold for 6 wins and qualification. My name rose to 3rd on the public board, directly beneath Fiona and Orlan. The dragon woman looked at the board. Then she looked at me. "My name is Luma," she said. "Your empire stole my inheritance and you are carrying it." Council guards surrounded her. Luma smiled. Every spear in their hands melted. She turned to the headmaster. "I will enroll." The headmaster opened his mouth. Luma pointed at the ruined lightning rod. "Unless you prefer that I remain in my larger form." The headmaster approved her application before the smoke cleared. Luma attended morning roll call, ate 47 eggs in the dining hall, and demanded the seat beside me. The headmaster gave her the back row. Gold moved through Luma's white hair when annoyed. Her academy coat covered black scales, but the standard boots had surrendered. The tournament final began in 3 hours. Before it did, Luma took Fiona, Sable, Cedric, Torin and me into the broken lightning tower. Hundreds of black chains disappeared from its empty chamber into the walls. Each carried the Imperial Storm Council seal. "They cut the storage rhythm from my heart while I slept," Luma said. "Then they copied it into your class archive."
The council had wanted soldiers who could keep enemy lightning. Every test subject burned before holding 10 units, so Living Accumulator was buried as a failed F-class. Why did it work for me? Luma placed one hand over my chest. Your soul survived the sky before entering this world. The class changed one rule inside you. You keep what every other body must release. Your muscles remain human and your heart remains easy to break. The vending machine had finally contributed something. One cheat, one broken rule. Everything else depended on how I used it. You carry my stolen inheritance, Luma said.
I will decide whether you are my heir or my enemy after seeing what you do with it. Torin leaned towards Cedric. Is every lesson with her a death threat? The good instructors use fewer words. Sable struck both with a wooden sword. Luma then corrected my last weakness. I treated charge like water in a sealed jar. A dragon treated its body like a river. Fiona sent 500 units into my left hand. I moved the charge through my chest and released it from my right before it settled. My capacity remained 7,000, but I could process more if my output matched the incoming current. If either side became unbalanced, my heart stopped. Luma called that motivation. Sable called it poor safety design. Fiona ended the lesson before Luma increased the current. Outside the tower, the city had doubled in size. People filled the streets, and tournament crystals broadcast the final matches across the capital. Merchants sold small copper buckets with my name painted on them. One child wore a broom in his hair and shouted 67 at passing students. The world had spent 3 days laughing at me. Now it was selling copies. The final 8 entered the arena at noon. My public record appeared above the eastern wall. 3-unit examination, F-rank class, 12,000 units processed in the vault, 6 tournament victories, 80 gold earned. Current rank, D. The crowd shouted living thunder before the announcer reached my name. Fiona entered next. Her record showed the highest natural lightning output in Academy history. The roar for her shook dust from the damaged shield. Orlan entered last. His 40 undefeated victories appeared in silver. His white armour had been replaced by a black council battlesuit. He carried a long spear with a crystal shaped like a dragon tooth. Luma saw it. Every lamp in the arena exploded. "That tooth belonged to my brother," she said. The crowd heard her through the speaking crystals. Orlan looked toward the back row where she sat. "The council recovered it from a dangerous beast." Luma stood. Sable caught the back of her coat. "If you eat him before the final, Elias loses the prize money." Luma sat down. "After the final." Orlan stopped looking at her. My quarter-final opponent was a fire mage ranked 9th in the academy. He filled the arena with a spinning wall of flame. Heat rolled over the spectators even through the shield. I spent 300 units through my legs and ran inside the flame. The air behind me pulled it upward into a red spiral. Its caster remained in the clear centre, staring at the fire tower where his defence had been. I placed my sword against his shoulder. Boundary or surrender? He looked at the blade. Surrender. The fight lasted 22 seconds. My 7th victory paid 20 gold, raised my capacity to 7,400, and moved me from 43rd to 21st. The shield remained unbroken, so Sable gave me one approving nod.
Orlan won his quarter-final with one spear thrust. The strike measured 2,000 units. He did not look tired afterward. Viona won hers without drawing a weapon. She raised one hand. Blue lightning covered the arena floor but avoided every white boundary line. Her opponent became trapped on a single dry stone and surrendered. The crowd laughed for a full minute. Then the semi-final bracket appeared. My name stood beside Viona's. The arena became quiet. The bookmakers froze their boards. Viona walked toward me beneath the competitor's platform. She carried 2 cups of citrus tea and 1 warm honey bun. "They only had 1 left," she said. I broke it in half. The filling was crushed walnut, honey and cinnamon. We ate without speaking for a moment. "Orlan expects one of us to injure the other," she said. "Then we disappoint him." "I will not hold back." "That may disappoint me." She smiled. "You asked how strong my best attack was. During your first duel, it was 400 units. And now? 1,200. My capacity was large enough to hold it. My body was not guaranteed to enjoy the experience. The owner finished her tea. "I first saw you when everyone else was watching your score. Do not treat me like someone you need to protect from a real fight." I was planning to protect myself. "Good." We entered the arena together. 8,000 spectators stood. Thousands more watched through broadcast crystals. The strongest natural lightning student faced the weakest official lightning class. The bell rang. Viona vanished in blue light. 3 bolts arrived before I completed 1 step. I absorbed the first, turned the second with my sword, and took the third through my leg. She surrounded me with 6 moving spheres. I used 10 units through my nerves and saw their paths. The only gap led directly to Viona. Her palm struck my chest. 400 units entered me, and I stopped one hand from the boundary. "Still protecting yourself?" "Learning." I changed tactics. Her next bolt gave me 200 units, which I spent through my legs. Another gave me 300, which sharpened my nerves and arms. Every attack made me faster. Viona understood. She gathered all 6 spheres into one white-blue spear. The arena meter climbed to 1,200. "Catch this!" Her strongest spell crossed the arena and entered my raised hand. I sent 200 units through my nerves. The world stopped. I crossed the distance between us and spent the remaining 1,000 through my legs. Time returned with my sword resting flat against her back. She looked over her shoulder. "You caught it." "You throw well." She raised both hands. "I surrender." The arena became louder than thunder. Half the crowd shouted my title. The other half shouted Viona's name. Nobody laughed at either of us. My capacity reached 8,000 after safely cycling her attack and the power from the match. My position rose to 9th. The victory paid 50 gold and placed me in the final. When we left the arena, Viona touched the burns on my palm. "Return my lightning when you are finished." "What interest rate?" "Dinner." That was the closest thing to a contract I wanted from anyone. Orlan won the other semi-final in 7 seconds. Before the final, he found me alone beside the western gate. He carried no spear. "A thunder dragon once destroyed 2 capital districts," he said. "One failed heartbeat from you could kill everyone here." "Then why put 4,000 units into my cage?" "To prove you could not control it. My family keeps the Empire's barriers alive. We cannot allow this class outside our control. There was his motive. He believed safety belonged to whoever held the keys. "Withdraw," he said. "The council will pay 300 gold. Cedric will receive a licensed forge. Fiona's contract will be cancelled. You will train in the capital. Behind how many locks?" He did not answer. The final bell rang. We entered the arena. The headmaster read Stormhold's oldest law. Its champion received B-rank protection and could not be removed by an outside institution during the academic year. If Orlan won, I would submit to the council. If I won, the council would leave Fiona, Cedric and me under academy protection. Both terms appeared before 8,000 witnesses and half the capital through broadcast crystals. The bell rang. His first spear thrust released 2,000 units. I caught it, redirected half into the floor and stored the rest.
The shaft struck my ribs and added another 80. I spent 500 in my muscles and drove him backward. Black lightning armor covered his body. "Lightning Lord," he said. His class multiplied every release by 10, and his natural output was 600. His next spell carried 6,000. It fell from the sky as a white pillar. I used Luma's river. Power entered my sword. I released 2,000 into the ground, spent 1,000 to leave the center, sent 2,000 into the sky, and stored the final 1,000. The white pillar vanished. The audience saw me standing at the edge of a smoking circle. The public meter showed 6,000 units absorbed without surrender. Orlan's undefeated record began to look less permanent. He attacked with spear, armor, and lightning. Every thrust gave me impact. Every spell gave me charge. He had greater output. I had no waste. The fight crossed the arena 10 times. My sword lost its edge, his armor cracked, and the shield failed twice. The crowd remained because it trusted me to keep the lightning inside. Fiona counted my breathing. Sable shouted one word whenever my feet crossed. "Stop." I listened. Power was easy. Stopping remained expensive. Orlan reached his limit first. He drove the dragon tooth spear into the arena center. Every council rune beneath Stormhold lit. Orlan used Luma's chains as one enormous spell circle. 3,000 units rose from the ground. His lightning lord multiplied his own 900 into 9,000. 12,000 units gathered above the spear. My capacity had reached 10,000 and I already held 4,000. If the attack entered me without leaving, my heart would become a brief public event. Orlan raised the spear. "Last chance." "You said that before the first match." He released the storm. I met it with Fiona's final charge still moving through my body. The world turned white. 12,000 units entered. I sent 3,000 into my legs, crossed the arena, and drove 4,000 through my arms. My damaged sword struck the spear. I released 5,000 into the shield and forced the storm away from the crowd. The spear shattered. Luma caught the flying dragon tooth. I stopped with my broken blade against Orlan's council crest. I cut only the crest. The crest fell, and his lightning armor vanished. Every lamp in the arena flared blue. The public board used the excess charge to display one name across the entire eastern wall. Elias. Orlan looked from the board to 8,000 witnesses and lowered his hands. I surrender. The undefeated capital champion lost his 41st official match. The roar reached the city below. My name rose to first place in the academy tournament. My rank changed from D to B. The prize board added 300 gold and a champion's storm steel sword. Strength, resources, status. All three changed before the broken council crest hit the ground. Then the crest exploded. Black lightning spread through the arena. Orlan turned pale. That is not mine. The chains beneath Stormhold pulled tight. Golden light tore from Luma into the shattered rod. The council had hidden a command that would steal her power and erase the witnesses if Orlan lost. 20,000 units flooded the arena. The shield turned inward around 8,000 spectators. The distant council had become the final enemy without sending a face. I drove my broken sword into the center rune. The first surge filled me to 10,000. I released it into the sky. The next went through the ground and broke 2 black chains. The current did not stop. My heart lost its rhythm. Viona reached me and struck my chest with a controlled spark. My heart moved again. "Keep the river open," she said. Sable cleared metal, Torin moved students, and Cedric brought grounded cables. Orlan seized the remaining council control rod. "The western chain," he shouted. "Break it after the northern one." He had lost, but still chose the arena over his family command. I followed his directions. 10,000 units passed through me, then 15,000, then 20,000. Each 1,000 safely cycled widened my capacity by 100. My limit rose while my body burned. The final black chain broke. Luma tore free. She returned to dragon form and covered the spectators with her wings. I sent the remaining current into her horns and she threw a golden pillar into the clouds. The inward shield shattered. No spectator died. The surviving broadcast crystals showed the capital everything. It saw the council command, Orlan's choice, and an F-class accumulator processed 20,000 units to protect his former audience. Luma returned to human form and stood before me. "You held more power than everyone around you," she said. "Most of it was trying to kill me." "That is normal power." She placed the dragon tooth in my hand. "You are not the council's thief. You are my chosen heir." The public board added a new title beneath my name, Storm Heir. The crowd shouted it until my burned legs stopped holding me. I woke that evening at Cedric's smithy. The champion's sword rested beside its prize chest. My earlier rewards brought my total to 460 gold and 53 silver. Taxes, repairs, donations and Cedric's roof left 360 gold and 53 silver. My capacity had stabilized at 12,000. My academy rank remained B. The kitchen table could barely hold dinner. Cedric cooked beef stew until the meat separated beneath a spoon. Sable brought roasted chicken, Torin brought bread, and Viona brought tea and honey buns. Luma brought 47 more eggs. Nobody asked why. We ate beside the repaired forge. The stew was thick, hot and rich. Butter melted into the bread. The chicken skin cracked. For the first time that week, my hair stayed down through an entire meal. Torin would lead the Western squad. Sable would train us. Orlan had lost his record and perhaps his inheritance, but his testimony would expose the command.
Luma received a private stone classroom. Fiona sat beside me after the others moved to the forge. "You still have something of mine," she said. 1,200 units? Dinner. I looked at the empty bowl. Cedric cooked. Then you owe me another. That interest rate is dangerous. She leaned closer and kissed my cheek. A tiny spark passed between us. The system reported 1 unit gained. Fiona smiled. Start saving? The academy alarm rang. We stepped outside. 7 black airships appeared above the eastern mountains, each marked as an Imperial Storm Warden. The council had sent its next answer. Luma stood on the roof with an egg in one hand. 7 enemies, she said. I checked my body. 0 stored charge, 10,000 capacity. 1 champion's sword, 360 gold and 53 silver. First place in the academy. 3 days earlier, my entire spell had lifted a dummy's hair. I took 1 step toward the mountain road. The system counted 1 unit. Then I took another.